A school bully attacks black girl until she calls her father the deadliest general. Blood was dripping from Paloma's nose as laughter echoed through the empty hallway. In that moment, she realized she had crossed the point of no return. What was about to happen would forever change the prestigious Vimon College. Her father, a man who had commanded covert military operations on 6 continents, whose mere name made foreign generals tremble, was about to find out what was happening to his daughter. The bully didn't know it, but he had just awakened a sleeping predator. A man who had sworn never to kill again, but whose strategic skills were about to turn an elite school into a silent battlefield. Paloma wiped the blood with the sleeve of her navy blue uniform as she stood up from the marble floor. At 16, she was the only black scholarship student in her senior year at the prestigious WESM, an institution that for generations had trained the children of Rivercrest's elite. With brilliant grades and an extraordinary talent for math, she had earned a full scholarship, something her mother, a nurse, could never have afforded. "Next time, learn your place, scholarship girl," said Renan Beatley, son of the school superintendent and captain. Of the swim team, his cold blue eyes showed no remorse as he held the family crest ring he had just used to punch Paloma in the face for refusing to do his calculus assignment. Beside him, his inseparable friends laughed. Benicio Reynolds, son of the mayor, and William Collins, whose father owned half the city's commercial properties. Together, they formed what everyone on campus knew as the Untouchables, privileged youths, seemingly immune to consequences. "My dad will find out about this," Paloma muttered, still tasting the metallic flavor of blood. Renan's unrestrained laughter echoed. "Your dad? What's he gonna do? Call Principal Harper. He plays golf with my dad every Sunday." He stepped closer, intimidating. "Besides, no one's gonna believe a scholarship girl over the 3 of us. Your word against ours." What Renan didn't know was that Paloma's father was no ordinary military man. General Vitor Bene had led tactical operations that would never make it into history books. A silent legend of the armed forces, currently serving as a national security advisor. By choice, he kept his daughter out of the spotlight, allowing her to grow up with some normalcy, using her mother's surname at school. As she walked angrily through the parking lot after the incident, Paloma noticed the principal's secretary, Mrs. Palmer, watching her from afar. The woman quickly averted her gaze when their eyes met, a silent witness to yet another abuse in the hallways of that institution. At home, in the modest apartment she shared with her mother, Paloma hesitated before picking up her cell phone. She had promised to use it only in an emergency. Her father had explained that it was a secure line, virtually untraceable, reserved for life-or-death situations. Paloma had made that promise the day he left for his last mission. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she considered the consequences. The harassment had been escalating for months. First, it was just comments about her hair, her skin, her scholarship status. Then came the accidents. Missing papers, substances spilled on her backpack, deliberate exclusion. Today, for the first time, it had become physical. With her nose still sore and a bruise forming, Paloma made her decision. She typed a short, precise message. "I need you, Dad." Code Blue. In their family vocabulary, Code Blue meant imminent danger, something she couldn't handle alone. The reply came in under 2 minutes. "I'll be there in 48 hours. Do nothing. Document everything. Trust me." Paloma knew what that meant. Her father, the strategist who never lost a battle, was on his way. And when General Vitor Bene entered a battlefield, even a social one, he left no survivors. The next morning, Paloma looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. The purple bruise under her right eye and her swollen nose told a story her mother, Caroline, a head nurse, at the municipal hospital, could not ignore. She nearly collapsed at the sight of her daughter's face. "Oh my God, Paloma, what happened to you?" she asked, gently touching the girl's bruised face. Her medical experience was already assessing the damage. It was Renan Beatley. With that stupid family ring, he wanted me to do his assignment, Paloma said, trying to sound indifferent, though her voice trembled. Caroline's face turned pale. She knew the Beatley family well. Superintendent Gregory Beatley controlled the hospital board where she worked. A complaint against his son could easily cost her job. "I called Dad," Paloma confessed in a faint voice. "I used the emergency number." A heavy silence filled the small apartment. Caroline and Victor had been separated for 5 years, after his constant deployments made the marriage unsustainable. "Are you sure that was necessary?" Caroline asked with genuine concern. She knew Victor Bene. When he went into tactical mode, nothing stopped him. "I tried everything. I spoke to the teachers, to the school counselor. No one listens. The untouchables are protected by their families." Paloma showed her phone, where she had documented months of insults and threatening messages. Meanwhile, in the private meeting room of Rivercrest City Hall, 3 powerful men sipped coffee. Mayor Tadeu Reynolds checked his gold watch while chatting with Gregory Beatley and William Collins, president of the Business Association. "The project for the new sports complex is practically guaranteed," said Tadeu with satisfaction. "With you controlling the school board, Greg, and William managing the land, we've got everything lined up." The quick but important pause. If your heart is already racing from this story, just imagine what's still to come. And this is just the beginning. So subscribe now so you don't miss a single episode of these stories of resilience, justice, and jaw-dropping twists. Like, comment, and share this with someone who needs to see it. Now back to the story, because what's coming next will leave you speechless. "My son mentioned a troublesome student at Vimon," said Beatley with disdain. "A girl named Paloma, daughter of that nurse at the municipal hospital, Caroline Parker." "Caroline Parker?" William frowned. "She refused to falsify the medical records we needed for the mall's insurance. Tough woman." Tadeu shrugged. "Maybe it's time to reevaluate that scholarship program. Vimon has always been for families who understand how our community works." Back at school, Paloma kept her head down, following her father's instructions. Document everything, don't react, don't draw attention. She recorded Renan and his friends bullying other students, cheating on tests, and even a teacher ignoring them as they scrawled racist slurs on another student's desk. During lunch, something unexpected happened. A red-haired girl sat beside her at the empty cafeteria table. "I'm Nicole Ramirez," she said with a smile. "New student, transfer. I saw what Renan did to you yesterday." Paloma looked at her suspiciously. "You shouldn't be sitting here. You'll ruin your reputation before it even starts." "I don't care about reputation. My dad's an investigative journalist. He taught me to recognize injustice when I see it." For the first time in months, Paloma felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't completely alone. After lunch, the untouchables cornered Paloma again, unaware that Nicole, sitting a few feet away, was discreetly recording everything with her phone. "Heard you've been complaining about me to the administration," said Renan, pushing Paloma against the lockers. "Thought we settled this yesterday." "I didn't say anything," Paloma replied calmly, remembering her father's words. "Never show fear to bullies." "Liar." Renan turned to Benicio Reynolds. "My dad got a call about some incident with a scholarship girl. Who else could it be?" What the boys didn't know was that hundreds of miles away at Fort Chandler military base, General Victor Bene had already launched a personal operation. Quietly pulled from an international mission, Bene assembled his most trusted team of ex-military men who would follow him into hell, if needed. "Gentlemen," said Ben in his private security room, facing 3 men, "this is not an official mission, it's personal." On a digital screen, photos of the Beatley, Reynolds, and Collins families appeared, alongside financial data, phone records, and information no civilian should have access to. "Our mission is not to cause physical harm," Benny explained, eyes cold as steel. "We'll expose the truth. We'll dismantle the system that allows these kids to hurt my daughter." Major Alice, his former field aide, raised his hand. "General, permission to speak freely." Granted. Are you sure you want to use your military contacts to handle a school issue? Bene locked eyes with his subordinate. I'm not using official resources. I'm using contacts. And when it comes to my daughter's safety, there's no line I won't cross. At Vimon, Paloma received an encrypted message. A package will arrive in 20 minutes. Be ready. 20 minutes later, a well-dressed woman posing as a courier entered the school office. I have a package for Miss Parker, she said, handing a sealed envelope to the receptionist. When Paloma was called, she found a state-of-the-art smartphone inside the envelope and a simple note. Secure communication configured. Destroy this note. On her way home, the new phone vibrated. It was a video call. P, she whispered, her eyes filling with tears at the familiar, serious face of Vitor Bene. I'm on my way, Paloma, he said. His calm tone masked the fury he felt at seeing the bruise on his daughter's face. But before I arrive, you need to understand. What I'm about to do isn't revenge. It's justice. Paloma nodded, feeling a mix of relief and anticipation. Her father began giving her rushed instructions about what she should do over the next 24 hours. The day after tomorrow, Vimon will never be the same again, and these boys will learn that even privilege has its limits. At the Beatley family mansion, Renan received a strange delivery. A small, senderless package containing only a military badge and a handwritten note with 2 words, I'm watching. The next morning, a subtle change swept through V College. During the night, surveillance cameras had been installed in strategic locations, but not by the administration. An invisible team operated in the shadows, monitoring every corner where privilege had once hidden. Paloma walked through the school doors different. She no longer walked with her head down but upright, eyes steady, like someone who knows she's not alone. Beside her, Nicole chatted animatedly, seemingly oblivious to the stairs. But inside, both girls knew the counterattack had begun. In the teacher's lounge, Principal Regina Harper held an emergency meeting. Her usually impassive face now showed tension. I received a call from Superintendent Beatley this morning. Someone is investigating our disciplinary practices, she said, adjusting her glasses. The Department of Education received an anonymous dossier about irregularities at Vermont. The teachers exchanged uneasy glances. Many of them knew exactly what irregularities meant. Years of looking the other way in the face of abuses committed by the children of important donors. Today we must be extremely cautious, Regina continued, especially with the student Paloma Parker. She apparently has connections we didn't know about. The recently hired Professor Mayo furrowed his brow. Connections? She was assaulted. Shouldn't we be discussing how to protect her? The principal shot him a cold glare. Professor Mayo, perhaps you still don't understand how Vimon operates. Some families invest substantially in this school, and in return, we expect a certain understanding regarding their children's behavior. In the school parking lot, a discreet, elegant black sedan pulled in. A tall man with impeccable posture stepped out. His military haircut and sharp gaze betrayed decades of discipline. Vitor Bene. At the reception, he smiled cordially. Vitor Bene, I have an appointment with Principal Harper. The confused secretary checked the agenda. I don't see any. Perhaps check again. It's about a spot on the board of directors and a substantial donation. The magic words worked. Minutes later, he was being led into the principal's office. Mr. Bean, what a pleasure to have you here, said Regina Harper, clearly nervous. Your donation proposal took us by surprise. I like to personally visit the institutions I support, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, especially when I'm particularly interested in how they handle bullying cases. Vimon has a zero-tolerance policy for that kind of behavior. Bene opened his briefcase and took out a series of photos. Then I assume yesterday's incident has already resulted in severe punishment. The photos showed Renan assaulting Paloma. Clear, undeniable evidence. The principal paled. Where did you get these? Let's just say I have resources, he replied calmly. Just like I have the financial records that prove the embezzlement from the school's scholarship fund. Outside, Renan and his friends approached Paloma's locker, clearly planning another provocation. But this time, they were intercepted. "Is there a problem, gentlemen?" asked Professor Mayo, appearing unexpectedly. "Just passing by, Professor," William replied with a fake smile. "What a coincidence," said a female voice behind them. It was Regina Shen, the vice principal, now visibly more attentive, eyeing the boys with shared interest. "The principal wants to see you, now." In the principal's office, Renan, Benicio, and William entered accompanied by Vice Principal Shen. Beside her was a man they'd never seen before, but whose icy gaze cut through the air like a blade. "Sit down," said the man, with a calm voice that could not be disobeyed. "Who are you?" asked Benicio, trying to sound confident. "My name is Viterbene, General Viterbene, and you assaulted my daughter yesterday." Silence fell over the room. The blood drained from Renan's face when he recognized the military badge now resting on the desk. Principal Harper, seated beside the general, could barely hide his nervousness. "Mr. Bean was explaining to me how Vimon will immediately enforce severe disciplinary measures against those responsible," Harper stammered. "My father will never allow this," protested Renan. Vitorbene's cold smile widened. "On the contrary, your father is a little preoccupied at the moment." He opened his tablet and turned the screen toward the boys. On it, Superintendent Gregory Beatley was being escorted from a building by 2 federal agents. In another image, Mayor Tadeu Reynolds stood before journalists, desperately denying involvement in a corruption scandal. And finally, William Collins Sr. was shown being interrogated at a police station. "They're all being investigated for fraud, embezzlement, unlawful favoritism, and it all started with what you did to my daughter." The door opened. Paloma entered, accompanied by Nicole. She stood by her father, head held high, for the first time without fear. "Are these the boys who hurt you?" Benny asked, voice low. Paloma nodded, locking eyes with Renan. "You won't get away with this," William whispered angrily, but the general heard it. He didn't hesitate. He stepped closer to William. "William Jr.," he said with surgical calm, "I've taken down entire military regimes more organized than your suburban dynasty before breakfast. Don't test me." At that moment, all 3 boys' phones buzzed simultaneously. They looked at the screen. It was the same video. Their parents being humiliated, handcuffed, interrogated. News cameras capturing everything. The empire of lies and power their families had built was crumbling before their eyes. Vimon College was never the same after that morning. The halls, once dominated by arrogant laughter and superior glances, now echoed with whispers, curious stares, and above all, respect. At the State Board of Education headquarters, General Vitorbene sat at a table in front of representatives and prosecutors as if he were in a war room. In front of him, documents organized like battle tactics revealed years of negligence, favoritism, and corruption within the school. Every page, every line was a piece of a dark puzzle finally coming together. "These records show a consistent pattern of discrimination and omission," Bene said precisely. "Principal Regina Harper received 18 formal harassment complaints in the last 2 years, all ignored when they involved children of donors." It was no longer just about Paloma. It was about dozens of marginalized students whose voices had been silenced by fear. Outside, the entire city watched the scandal spread like wildfire. Gregory Beatley was suspended under criminal investigation. Tadeu Reynolds, the mayor, struggled to maintain composure during live interviews. William Collins, once hailed as a pillar of the local economy, now headlined for business fraud. At school, students whispered among themselves, their eyes fixed on Paloma, some with admiration, others with shame, and many with hope. "Your dad is incredible," said Nicole, sitting beside Paloma in the courtyard. "Everyone saying he turned Rivercrest upside down in 48 hours? Paloma smiled faintly, touching the bruise that now only left a shadow on her face. "He always said strategy isn't about strength. It's about using the enemy's weakness against them." In the office of now former Vice Principal Shen, who would serve as interim principal following Regina Harper's immediate resignation, a new committee was being formed. "We're overhauling the school's entire disciplinary policy," Shen explained to Caroline, Paloma's mother, "and we want your daughter to represent the students on the new Educational Justice Council." "You want her to lead this?" Caroline asked, surprised. She faced the worst this school has to offer, and survived. No one else has the moral authority Paloma does now. 3 weeks later, in a crowded auditorium, Paloma stepped onto the stage. The bruise had faded, but the invisible marks of pain and struggle only made her stronger. Over 500 students watched her in silence. Many had never even spoken to her before. She took a deep breath. "What happened to me wasn't an isolated case." Her voice was firm, clear, unshakable. "For years, scholarship students, black students, Asian students, or anyone who didn't fit this school's mold, suffered in silence because they knew no one would do anything." She looked out at her peers. "Today that ends. We begin a new era at Vermont, an era of respect, equality, and true meritocracy." At the back of the auditorium, Vitor Bene watched silently. Beside him, Caroline held his hand, tears in her eyes. "I never wanted her to see this side of you, Vitor," she whispered. "And I never wanted her to need to," the general replied. "But justice is not just an idea, it's a mission." Since that day, Vermont College became a national symbol of educational reform. Renan, Benicio, and William were transferred to military schools with strict rules, where they finally learned what consequences meant. The Beatley, Reynolds, and Collins families faced lawsuits, investigations, and perhaps worst of all, public opinion. Rivercrest was never the same again, because at some point, power meets its limit, and sometimes that limit comes in the form of a retired general who proves that the greatest strength isn't in destroying the enemy, but in teaching that no one is above justice. If this story moved you, now it's your turn to be part of the change. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any story that inspires, moves, and transforms. Here, injustice never goes unnoticed, and every video is a step toward a fairer world. Leave a like, share with someone who needs to hear this message, and activate the bell, because the next turning point may be just one click away. Together we are stronger, and here no one fights alone.